which I think is very sad for people who are fearless and outspoken defenders of democracy. And they are Senator David Nakhid and also community activist Ravi Balgobin Maharaj. So I would like to give a very warm welcome to Senator Nakhid and also to Ravi and thank them for joining us tonight. Specifically, though, we are here to talk about two things. There are two issues of national importance that would have happened last week. Senator David Nakhid, along with MP for Chaguanas West, attorney Dinesh Rambali, who also is a friend of the foundation. He's been on our program several times. They would have delivered a letter to the acting police commissioner, MacDonald Jacob, calling for an investigation of the Prime Minister and 5 ministers for alleged perverting the course of justice and or misbehavior in public office as it pertains to the Nelson Gate matter. So this is one of the main things that we will be discussing tonight with Senator Nakhid, who wrote that letter. Also, activist Ravi Balgobin would have sent a pre-action protocol letter to the government, giving them until 4 p.m. yesterday, which would have been Monday, November the 14th, to reverse a decision to seek legislative amendment to postpone the government elections by a year. Now, we did have MP Khadija Amin last week on the program, who would have spoken in depth about this, the local government reform legislation and what are some of the implications of this partial proclaimment of it. So we will continue that discussion with Mr. Balgobin tonight. I want to say a special welcome to you, our audience, those of you who are connected to the Zoom, as well as those who are joining us on Facebook. And we are live, I believe, on the UNC pages as well as the Campus Foundation page, right? I want to also acknowledge the media who has been joining us every week, and they have been giving us some good coverage. So I want to say thanks to the media for coming out. I would also like to say hello to the Campus Foundation executive members, those who aren't here. Both Chris and Safras are executive members, but they work behind the scenes to keep the program going. So, I really do have to acknowledge them. And of course, my co-moderators who are with me every week, the treasurer of the Campus Foundation, Mr. Safras Ali, and our public relations officer, Mr. Chris Hussein. So I just want to mention, though, before I close off, that we will have a Q&A. These are two hot topics, and there was so much excitement when we said Senator Nakhid was going to be here and Ravi was going to be here. People just couldn't wait. So we will have a Q&A session at the end. We are going to try to wrap up within 1 hour. So by 9 o'clock, we want to close off. Time permitting, we will also have a short open mic session to give anyone who want to make a contribution a chance to speak. So without further ado, let me pass you on to Safras, who will take us into the panel discussion.
Okay, good night, everybody. You all hear me? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so good night, Trinidad and Tobago. First of all, I would like to thank our esteemed guest, Senator David Nakhid, who is no stranger to us and also to the public. Senator Nakhid has been championing the cause of the poor and the downtrodden. And time again, he has shown the tenacity, whether it's standing up for farmers, whether it's standing up for the residents in Tunapuna, whether it's standing up for the poor and the needy. We have seen him distributing hampers upon hampers. Senator, we are very much honored to have you here with us. Thank you very much. Similarly, Ravi Balgobin Maharaj is no stranger to Trinidad and Tobago. He has, and we will be asking about this also, apparently he has a very high percentage of win record against this government in terms of FOIAs and in terms of pre-action protocol letters and so on. So we'll come to that in a bit soon. But we want to start with Senator David Nakhid and this whole Nelson Gate affair. Senator, the issue is there, but it would appear that the ruling party would wish for it to go away by not saying anything about it. And this is why we at the Compass thought it fit to have it here, and with respect to that action, you and MP, the Honorable Dinesh Rambali, did last week in terms of hand delivering a letter to the Commissioner of Police, asking him to do certain things. We thought it very, very fit to have you here. So we're going to give you the floor for you, Senator Nakhid, to tell us what exactly drove you and Senator MP Rambali in taking that course of action, and what do you hope will come out of it?
Well, good evening to the panel. All protocols observed, and a big shout out to my brother Ravi, Balgobin Maharaj, who is indeed a true soldier. And I'm very much an admirer of his work. Having said that, Brother Safraz, it's quite clear to all of Trinidad and Tobago that this is a government that has undermined democracy in incremental steps. I mean, we've warned about this, but they have made it quite clear, not only through how they have attempted to pass legislation and all of these things, but their whole raison d'etre, apparently, is to procure without procurement. It's to legalize thievery, corruption. I mean, we just have to look at what happened in the parliament today, with their how they dealt with the legislation with the Civil Aviation Authority, you know, extending the term limits to accommodate one of their friends on the board. So I think the public is well aware of how this government operates. It is indeed a government by BAPS. When I say by BAPS, it's a very intellectual, bankrupt government. This is a government really and truly devoid of any kind of proper thinkers. I mean, from the Minister of Finance, from the Prime Minister all the way down. I mean, they have attorney generals who lie, who perjure themselves, attorney generals who do not know the law. You know, I mean, I am embarrassed sometimes that, you know, I mean, this is a government that can have anyone thinking that they are an academic, you know, and I like a challenge, and I do not feel challenged by this government at all. I thought I would have a challenge in the Senate, in discussions, in debates, but they are so vacuous and inept that I really have not a challenge, you know. So I look forward. I have to do things pretty much like my brother Ravi. We have to write letters. We have to write letters because this is a government that knows that we live in a country whereby 7 days and that's about it. What do you call it? The 9-day wonder. We are indeed so. I mean, they've read, despite the Rowley's misguided attempt to feel that he's somewhat of a cricketer. They've read the board, they've read the cricketing landscape, they read the landscape well, they read the pitch well, that they know that we have a fourth estate that is basically in their pockets, that is guided by the narrative of the government. So Nelson Gate can come out, which for most of the country is probably the most corrupt event to have taken place in the history of the country. I mean, you have, and just for the public to know, what you have in Nelson Gate is a government actively conspiring to pervert the course of justice, bribe an active witness, to turn state evidence, to bring down political opponents of the government. That's what you have. If indeed you have the evidence to do so, then you have to do so in a democratic way. You have to follow the natural course of justice, the rule of law, and we know all of that. The government did none of that. They use, I like to say use, because Father Sarari is so out of his depth as AG. I think he was used and sent on a, you know, go get him, you know, and Father Sarari, if he sees some rental money in front of him, he gone. So, you know, the government, I think, especially Rowley, use Al-Rawi to do things that are illegal. And I'm not just saying that flippantly. Al-Rawi admitted that he spoke with Keith Rowley on the matter of the indemnity agreement for Nelson, that he spoke with Fitzgerald Hines, that he spoke with Stuart Young, that he spoke with Sagam Singh Suklal. And I may have forgotten one or two. I mean, there's so many conspirators in this mix. You know, just call a name, and you know you'll probably hit the mark. And they actively conspired, and you know the fast continues. What they have done, when I say the fast continues, they feel that if they remain silent, Reginald Amor, but you know that perjurer is easy to forget. And he is a forgettable character by all means, I can tell you. So, you know, what they've done is that they've conspired, and now their conspiracy has extended to a conspiracy of silence. They feel that if they remain silent, the public will forget. You know, so Ravi could talk about cricket, he could get COVID, he could talk about he could go to that well that has run dry now, which is talk about the Honorable Kamala Prasad Processor, about rum and vodka and all kinds of puerile and petulance things that, you know, Rowley is famous for. And, you know, and he will get some traction, as we saw today. I saw tonight on TV6. They will talk about that. You know, I mean, we love cricket. Cricket is important to us, but cricket has never been important since the 1980s, the CARICOM at all. I mean, Rowley mentioned in his cricket report that he was part of the report. I think it's the Batu report. I forgot the name. Barito report, sorry. He was part of that report. Which only goes to show that Kamala Prasad Bisaswa was right about him. Because he said whatever he touches turns to, and we know, you know, it ends with it. And apparently that report that he claimed to have been part of, what came of it? Has it improved West Indies cricket? So, you know, I'll put that aside and stick to Nelson Gate. Ravi and Ravi and his bunch of misfits basically have perverted the course of justice, and we felt it necessary to write a letter, seeing that it has gone out of the public glare onto another scandal. This is a government of scandals and events and one-off programs. They do not rule by public policy. They rule by one-off events, Agri Expo, or this or that. You know, so we felt it was necessary to take the next step, which is to the Commissioner of Police. What that does, Brother Safraz and panel, it puts us in a position after to take the kind of action that Brother Ravi is famous for, which is we place them on a spotlight and a notice that if this investigation does not proceed as is warranted for such a critical issue, then we'll have to go the legal route to challenge them in the court and see what we can do. So I just give a general overview of where we are, and I'll turn it back to you now, Brother Safraz.
Well, I'm glad you gave that very telling introduction. I just want to state that it's a very sad day in our country, very sad and disappointing to me. And I'm not a youth again, but I can just imagine the youth, for example, like Chris and how they're feeling at the moment when they would have read that statement from that Facebook post from the Prime Minister responding to Dr. Tim Gopi Singh cricket response. And he made reference about alcohol and being drunk and so on. It was totally disgusting. And to me, it was unbecoming of the office of the Prime Minister. I was so disappointed when I saw that. I said, but what really going on here?
Well, but first of all, you have the legend that is Dr. Tim Gopi Singh.
Yeah.
You know, and I was surprised that he would even, you know, address Keith Rowley as regards the cricket. You know, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh represented Trinidad and Tobago. And, you know, you know what I mean? He's emblematic of what is I like to call a student athlete. I mean, he's an academic, he's a doctor, and he played cricket at the highest level regionally. You know, talking to Rowley, you know what I mean, whose legacy will be one of non-achievement, you know, and that's what I find so sad. When you have people who have not achieved anything, whether in sports, whether in academics, and you know, I mean, the glaring difference between, and this is a fact. the glaring difference between what the UNC has to offer in terms of personnel as opposed to what the PNM offers. You know, they are non-achievers, and UNC have people who have achieved, and it goes to show embodied by our honorable political leader. If you look at her track record as compared to Rowley's track record, I mean, it's chalk and cheese. And unfortunately, Rowley has to go back to the same old tried and trusted method of a despicable dictator, which is personalize everything. Kamala Prasad said did not. She spoke to him about his policies, his lack of achievement in public policies, and to do with anything, including closing on Petrotrain and suffering the economy and decimating the economy, small and medium enterprises, all of these things. And he doesn't answer. He goes back to, you know, drink your rum and get out of here, and all of these kind of sound bites the media will play, unfortunately.
Before Chris brings on Ravi, I just want to ask you this question, Senator. Senator, yeah. So the question I want to ask is that how come this stage? How come it reach a stage where you have to write a letter to the DP? You have to write a letter to the CP requesting formal investigation. I mean, the issues are outside there, and for the common person, there may have been alleged breaches of the law. But how come you have to actually urge on the COP to do their job? Any comments?
I'll tell you why. And it will be instructive to know and informative for the public that when MP Dennis Rambali, my very brilliant colleague, when we met with Acting Commissioner of Police Jacobs, it was very instructive what he said to us. He said that this case, this Nelson Gate case, was actually in the hands of the DPP. Wow. He said that to us. So then I'm wondering, as well as MP Rambali, if the TPPS is the investigative arm, then the DPP who can launch an investigation, what was he saying to us clearly so that it's now with the DPP and he's waiting instructions from the DPP? He's awaiting instructions from the DPP. I mean, how is that possible? If he has launched an investigation, it's up to his office, by all metrics, to bring this investigation to an end. He has to pursue it and bring it to its logical conclusion. Now he has told us now that it is now in the office of the DPP, and he's awaiting further instructions from the DPP. I couldn't make this up if I tried. I mean, it's just a bunch of dunces. It's a bunch of people who obviously, it's the Keystone Cops. They do not know what they are doing.
Is he saying that an investigation was indeed started and he presented their findings, their preliminary findings, to the DPP for further instructions, or is he awaiting the DPP to tell them to start an investigation?
Well, if I assume the former, what you said, because he said that they had looked at it and given it to the DPP, which, you know, would mean that they had launched some form of investigation. I wouldn't know the efficacy of that, but I can only assume. And they had given it over to the DPP, and they are now awaiting further instructions. So I don't know if it's again past kicking the bucket down the road, passing the buck, however you want to phrase it, but it looks like eventually, if they keep just passing the ball backwards, we'll have to take some kind of action legally.
Chris.
Good evening, everyone. You know, I'm listening on, and Safrazia asked what my generation, what we would think about that Facebook post. Nothing. Really wouldn't think anything. You know, we have grown accustomed from 2015 to this type of behavior. He has normalized what it is to be him. Yeah, he has no knowledge what it is to be him. But I also think it is beyond that. I think the Prime Minister right now understands that there is an internal election going on within his party, and he understands that he is being challenged, and he also understands that the party themselves, well, the membership may not be in full support, or they may be, but not overwhelmingly supportive of him. And so he has to do what he thinks is needed to maybe, get the base to come out and support him. So he would have reverted to his tactics that he, accustomed to. So we think nothing. We think nothing. Anybody going from scandal to scandal to be relevant, we do not think about. We do not think about. But with all of those things said, it is indeed an honor to introduce our second panelist for tonight, activist Ravi Balgobin Maharaj. And, that name is now a household name in Trinidad and Tobago. We always hear his name. If you don't read it in the papers once a week, it's on the news somewhere. So when I think of political activists and people who actually get up and lead the charge for socialism, I really can think of one person, and it is him. And as Lisha indicated earlier on, he would have sent a pre-action protocol letter to the government, giving them until 4 p.m. yesterday to reverse a decision to seek a legislative amendment to postpone the local government election. So, Ravi, welcome, and we want you to expand and tell us things we know and maybe things that we do not know right now.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Chris. Thanks for having me, Safraz. And good evening to my brother, David Nakhid, who is always gracious enough to impart such lovely compliments. And let me say, of all the senators currently in Parliament today, he's one of the hardest working, and he's one of the highest achievers in terms of getting things done through the Senate, through the Parliament, and now through the courts as well. I'm glad that I can be a role model to him. I hope more persons will take note of it, and I hope that we can get more parliamentarians to take an active role in what goes on, not only through the Parliament itself, but through the courts, through social activism. Because I think that, as much as parliamentarians are there to debate certain issues and bills and acts and stuff, we need people on the ground doing things, and really fighting for the people instead of, just talking about it in Parliament. So it's always really good to see someone like Mr. David Nakhid, like MP Dinesh Rambali, taking lead, going into the court and saying, look, we need to get information, we need to get things done. And, I commend them both for it. That said, the issue right now is with, and the hot topic is with the local government election. 1 month before the current term is due to conclude, the government is now saying, look, we want to postpone this thing for an entire year. We want to extend the term of the current local government bodies, the aldermen and the councillors, by a year, because we have this amendment bill. We want to institute changes. We want to bring about a collective change. We're rolling it out in stages. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And the question is, why come at the very last minute? Why come at in the 11th hour and say you're going to do all of these things when this bill has been tabled for years, right? It has gone to the Joint Select Committee. It was approved, I believe, in August this year, even though there was a minority report put out by members of the opposition. So they didn't even have the full support of the Joint Select Committee. And I think really and truly, there's no reason for the government to implement this bill as it pertains to the current local government term. I think any amendments to the constitution, as it relates to local government, I think it should have been applied if they wanted to, and I'm not saying that they should, but it should have been applied to a new term, seeing as how elections was right around the corner. I think that this is just a reaction to the THA election, which saw the PNM almost being wiped out completely. They remain with only one district in THA. And they realized, that their popularity has been waning ever since 2015. They've been losing seats in the general election. They've lost districts and corporations in the last local election. I think they realized, they are on a downward trend. So they're looking for ways to counteract that, and they're looking for ways to just extend their terms in office illegally by implementing this measure here now. So it's important that we take the matter to court. We gave them until yesterday, as you correctly said, 4 o'clock for response and for them to put a halt to this entire thing. They hadn't responded. And today my attorneys filed a motion for judicial review in the courts, and we're hoping to get a quick date so that this matter can move forward and we can prevent the government from extending it. As you would know, in 2003, a prior PNM administration would have extended the life of that local government body for 6 years. The local government election was held until 2009, the length of 2 full terms. So you had an entire term where local government executives, councillors, and aldermen would have been in these positions, some might think illegally. Now, the current administration is saying, look, we have a valid reason for doing it. We went to Parliament, we got the bill assented. But the thing about it, even though you have a legislative mandate, again, there's no reason to implement it, I think, to this current term. Any legislative amendment should have been held off until the new term came in, until the new batch of councillors and aldermen came in. Because I think the local government election, and I know many people don't consider it to be as important. I think it's actually more important than a general election. Obviously, you need a government in place and you want to vote for that. But the local government bodies, where most of the work gets done at a community level. And therefore, if there exists a situation where you have local government officials who aren't performing, who aren't living up to the tasks that they were elected to perform, then you must be able to remove them within the time frame that is set out. Right now it's 3 years. So people would have been anticipating this and looking forward to going out, casting their vote, whether to return their councillors to their posts or to remove them and to bring someone else. As I said before, the PNM have shown in the past local election that they've been losing ground and they've been losing support in the nation as a whole. So I think they're dreading that. I think they know that they're going to lose more corporations, more districts. And this is just a mitigating move for them to try to stall that election and try to put things in place so that maybe they have a better chance next year.
But Ravi, I want to suggest that that on top, and I hear your reason, and I fully agree with you that there was no need to postpone by a whole year to bring the legislation into play. They had 7 years before and they did nothing concerning that, right? But on top of that, the overriding issue to me, and I think it's one of the editorials stated it, is that democracy delayed is democracy denied, right? And to me, they are depriving me of my right to go and exercise my democratic process in selecting the person who I best want to represent me at the local government. What right do they have to deny me that right?
No, absolutely. And when you look at the state of the country today, when you look at the amount of flooding that you'd see taking place all over the country, right? A lot of persons look to their local government bodies and officials to put measures in place, to clean the drains, to get dredging works done, to build box drains, to do all of these things, to prevent the flood from reaching into their homes. But again, if these persons aren't performing, there needs to be, as you rightly said, a democratic process within the time frame of 3 years for the electorate to go out and vote these persons out and get competent people in who will come in and do the job. But like I said, I think the PNM knows that if they do that right now, a lot of their councillors are going to be removed and replaced with UNC councillors or someone else. And that's what they're dreading. They just want to make sure that they hold on to the positions. And on top of that, what the amendment bill seeks to do is it seeks to create permanent positions within the corporations, right? And what that would do, especially going into an election, if they postpone it by 1 year and you have that, then you'd have a holdover and you'll have a executive that sits just below the councillors and the aldermen and the board of the corporations, who would be there in a permanent capacity. And even if the PNM were to lose corporations, but you had a control from these persons who sit just below the executive committee, I think that is what they want to do and put things in place so that they know that even if they lose the corporation and they lose districts, at least they have that buffer of persons there who will still be able to do their bidding.
If I could just come in at this point, right? Now, Ravi, there was so much excitement when people found out you were coming on the show, right? And our episode tonight is really about defending democracy. You spoke a little earlier about the role of social activism in democracy. I want to know, right, what can we do to encourage more people to get involved in social activism? And the reason I am asking is, for example, let's say, I think there's a need for people to protest in Trinidad, have peaceful protests, that is. But there seems to be a reluctance to get people out. People they just want to go on social media and complain. But she hit the ground running to say, join a protest, to show up in numbers, in masses, which is what I believe we need to send a very clear message to the government. Being a social activist, and you probably are the most well-known activist that we have right now in the country, what would you recommend to encourage more people to get involved in social activism?
Well, I'll tell you, and it has been a challenge throughout the years, especially on the UNC side, for the same thing, is getting people out to go out and to protest and to do things. And there's a very good reason for it. I'll tell you that especially under the current PNM administration, a lot of people are scared. And they're scared for two reasons. One is they're scared for victimization, where the PNM has shown in the past that they're willing to take retribution on anybody who speaks out against them. Like if you have a job, if you have a contract with the government, they're going to take that away from you. And I think a lot of people are scared for that. And the other thing is that, earlier this week, you would have seen a story where a state witness was gunned down, right? And this person, he wasn't only a state witness in a murder investigation, he was a state witness in a murder investigation where police officers are implicated in the killing of someone, right? Now, I don't know what happened, but I'll tell you, when people see these types of stories and when speculation is allowed to occur, what happens is you get the impression that the people that are in position to protect the nation and to protect the citizens of the country may not be doing that if you stand in opposition of the government or of other organizations. So it's very hard, really and truly, to get people to come out because of these things, because of the fear that exists in society. The police, as much as there are good apples within the police service who really want to serve and protect the nation, I think right now they are leaderless because of the interfering and the meddling that the government has been involved in terms of the search for leadership of the police service, and they're meddling with the Police Service Commission. And I think because of that, there really isn't any trust and any faith that the police will be able to protect individuals if they come out and if they protest and do these things. You see all the time when police intervene in protest actions, most of the times now you'll see them using force, actual force against protesters if they think that it's illegal or if they think it's going overboard. You know, and all of these things are covered by the news. People are afraid of it. But I'll tell you that there's also strength in numbers. The more persons who get involved, it not only demonstrates, you know, that there's a larger opposition to the draconian actions of the government. And I think really and truly people need to come up, but it also needs proper organization in terms of creating these types of protest actions. So we need to get people to really step up and to organize these things properly. And I think if we can do it, and if we can show people, look, more and more people are coming out to do it, I think you'll eventually get a larger number of persons.
Well, Brother Ravi, let me make an interjection there, just to expand on what you said. They are indeed afraid, and it is very apt that you brought up what happened with Jelano Romney, and that he has been killed. Let's not forget, also someone who witnessed the children of a minister, of an MP, who was using high-powered rifles. All of a sudden, he too committed suicide. Apparently, by all reports, he shot himself twice in the head. So these are not happy coincidences. Let's say I'm on record as saying that this government is capable of anything. PNM, remember, PNM is the government of Gene Miles, gang raped and humiliated. It's the government of Akil Chambers, sodomized and killed. It's the government of a pedophile ring, active pedophile ring, as testified by Robert Sabda. So we can go on and on. So let's not treat the TTPS with kids' gloves or anybody. There are no sacred cows in a democracy. And I think we need to call it, as you said, these are not happy coincidences at all. And people are very scared to come out and speak out against this government and stand up to this government. And I think that the UNC has been leading the charge. I think people like yourself and and other people within the party, and of course our honorable political leader has been spot on lately, and that is why she's a constant subject of attacks from Rowley. So I just wanted an interjection that what happened with Jelano Romney, as you you stated so appropriately, it's not just one coincidence. There have been several along the way with this very haphazard PNM government.
Senator Nakhid, I want to ask you something, because you are a senator. We see you on the UNC virtual speaking, and of course, former athletes. You have so far built a legacy. You have built credibility. Persons, when you speak, persons are interested. They want to listen to you. I am interested in something well, not really much interested, but I want to know why. I want your opinion on this. You spoke about Faris as the Attorney General and the legacy that he may have left so far there. And now he is the Minister of Local Government. And we are seeing what's going on here with that as well. He's currently going up as the PRO on the Leaders in Service, which is the Rowley's team for the PNM. What are they really trying to do? Because I'm trying to make sense of this in my head, and I think I need help, and I feel you may be able to help me with that.
Well, it's very simple. In an organization where everyone keeps each other's secrets, you cannot come out and show Faris Ravi to the wolves. Rowley cannot do that. Faris knows things about Rowley, and Rowley knows things about Faris. I mean, that is clear. I mean, there's no way, there's no leader in our part of the world, in the Western Hemisphere, who has suffered through the bumblings and fumblings and mishaps of a Faris Ravi, and he is still in the cabinet. He's still in the government. He would have been fired by anybody, any leader with any competency. He would have been fired already. So when you see he has been demoted, maybe people say move laterally, move sideways, it means that Keith Rowley is not interested in proper governance. He's interested in consolidating his group of, as he termed, the Cosa Nostra, you know, and so it's all about keeping the people who has his secrets close to him. I mean, we can talk about Faris Ravi, inept and ineffectual as he was as Attorney General. We can talk about Fitzgerald Hines as inept and ineffectual as he is as Minister of National Security. We can talk about Kazim Hussain, you know, who although new in the job, is basically clueless as to what is needed in the Ministry of Agriculture. We can talk about Stuart Young, as you know, Stuart Young has basically, you know, a famous philosopher said, you know, we go between, as human beings, we go between the sublime and the ridiculous. You know, we go as human beings, we reach sometimes a state of, you know, sublimity, where we reach the sublime, you know, whether by mere chance or happen chance, or we reach sometimes in our life, we do things that are sublime. And most times we do things that are ridiculous. You know, Stuart Young is one of those people who is yet to reach anything to do with the sublime. He has been ridiculous in every portfolio that he has. I mean, his contributions are ridiculous. I mean, he's Rowley's lapdog, nothing else. You know, he's Rowley's admittedly Gary Sobers. I don't know what, you know, why you would demean Gary Sobers in such a way if you profess to know about cricket. Because he's probably, to be honest, Stuart Young is probably the most mediocre, not minister, but mediocre politician I have seen in my life. I'm talking about very extremely. I mean, he has taken mediocrity to a whole new depth. And these are the kind of people, as to your question, Chris, that Rowley surrounds himself with. He protects them, obviously. You know, the only person that we can say was fired was Faris Ravi as AG, but quickly resuscitated as that role he has now as in local government. But he is the person, Al-Rawi, who, for all intents and purposes, has left a legacy of pure incompetence as AG. And it's a pity. I mean, it means we are in that state we are in.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Chris, sorry, I cut you off, but let me just say that we have about 10 more minutes. Right? And we do want to take...
Hey, Ravi. Is local government elections one man, one vote? That's a question I'm asking because it leads to a second part of what I need to understand that first before I get to my second point.
Ravi, you wanna?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is one man, one vote when it comes to electing of councillors. Under the People's Partnership and under Kamala Pasabi-Sessa, however, she did make an amendment to the way that aldermen are elected to the positions, which is proportional representation. So at the end of the ballot counting, they would count up the percentages. I forget the exact percentages, but they count up the percentages, and based on those numbers, they determine how many aldermen each party is allowed to appoint to the positions to run out the councils of each corporation.
Okay, thanks for that, Ravi. But my question had to do with at the voting booth. because I recall in the last local government election, we had a UNC person, I think was a councillor, or who's councillor now, who was told or inadvertently told that it's okay for businessmen to vote twice. One where they are residents, where they are resident, and at another time where their businesses reside. And not everyone, apparently, how many of us knew of that? And how democratic is that? And I've actually literally just pulled up the article in the Newsday that came out when people were questioning that. And the headline says, EBC, possible to vote twice in local government. And this was 2019, December 2019, the second. Possible to vote twice in local government elections. So let me get back to my question. My question is this. For that to be democratic, that should have been popularly advertised. Everyone should have known of that. How many UNC persons were aware of that and exercised that right, if it is indeed an option, right? How many versus how many PNM? Was it possible that PNM persons exercised it and not UNC or not some other party? And I mean, what have we done about that since that information came out? And that's where I'm leading.
Well, yeah, I mean, the provision has always been there. Again, you're right. In terms of public education, I don't think enough has been done to educate the public on it. But I think the provision is there because, and again, it's because local government serves the people directly, that the provision was there so that if you have a business within a different corporation from the one that you're living, you're allowed to vote twice. Well, you're allowed to vote in the second corporation because you want to have a say in who represents that district, so that they can provide you with proper representation in your business itself. But like you said, there should be proper education. I think there should be more information going out to the public so that everyone becomes aware of it and understands it.
Because to stumble upon it, Ravi, on the day of voting, cannot, in any stretch in my imagination, be a democratic process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, but it's something, I mean, no government has really opposed it. No political party that I'm aware of has ever opposed that provision. Because again, while it seems undemocratic, I think there is value to it. And that's the reason that no one has ever opposed it. But like you said, I think really and truly the information should be disseminated to the public. I think there needs to be more education and people really need to understand it and understand what it allows them to do in a local government election. So you're absolutely right about that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think we have time for one more person.
Yeah, Lisha, first of all, it was 2010 when Kamala became Prime Minister. She called the election, the local government, right? But Ravi, you was around with me in 2003 when Umadat Ramkisoon for the Kora Paradise seat in local government. The situation, I think you all don't have it correct. The problem was Umadat Ramkisoon parents lives in Arangwes. He born and grew up in Arangwes. He wanted to fight his seat in Arangwes, but he lives in Valsin where his property is. So what happened? He had to switch seats then, and he ended up going in Kora Paradise because he fell under the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. Although his parents, and he born and grew in Elsikor and Arangwes. So I think that is, I don't think that is right because I was party of that whole decision-making process in 2000 because I was his campaign manager. And you was with us in 2003, working with us in Tunapuna. But it cannot vote in two areas. It cannot be done. If you have a business in Port of Spain and a party wins the corporation, they can appoint you as an alderman because you own a business or property but you cannot go for the election. You cannot vote twice. It's once you have to vote. So if you have a property in Port of Spain, you can vote in Port of Spain, but you can't vote in Valsyn. So it's only once you could vote. I know that because there was discussion, and that is how we were able to switch candidates in 2003. Right, that is my experience because I was around that time with that situation. So it's not correct that you could vote twice. You cannot vote twice.
No, I think you're mixing up candidacy with voting because yeah, you're right. If you go up for local election, you can only go up within the corporation that you registered to vote. But if you have a business, you can register as a second place to vote. If you have a business outside, you can have a second registration in the district that you own the business in. But you would only be able to go up for the corporation that you actually reside in, not the one that you business in. In terms of alderman can be appointed to the position in any district within Trinidad. You don't even have to have a business within a district.
No, that is not true. That is not true. That is
yeah,
not
no,
true.
I
want to let
the legislation says that the alderman has to conform to all of the criteria that is there for a councillor except the address, except the location. And that's all it says. So you can be an alderman in any corporation within Trinidad, but you have to live in the corporation that you're going up for as a councillor.
Guys, well, more or less we are out of time. I do want, before I take closing, Ravi, did I cut you off? I see a confused look on your face because if you have something important to say, I don't want you to not say it. Huh?
No. I've come to yeah.
All right. Before I take closing remarks or closing comments from the panelists, I just want to thank a few of our regulars who are here with us almost every week. Alim, certainly. Nadina, who spoke. What I see, Karina is here. Trinity the Bone. Barbara, Curtis is here. So guys, thanks for joining us. I'm seeing Mr. Patrick Billy. I just want to read a couple of comments that he has on the chat here. I want to congratulate you all for challenging the postponement of the local government election. Keep up the fight against this corrupted government. There are sycophant supporters helping the PNM destroy the country. I want to tell Senator Nakhid, this one is for you. Don't give up. You have the right attitude in dealing with a Ruga government. So plenty of encouragement there. So on that note, we're almost out of time. Senator Nakhid, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Well, I'd just like to piggyback on those last sentiments. None of us within the opposition, and when I talk about the opposition, I mean UNC and the wider public who are against this government. Especially as the leader said, this Rowley PNM. I think we need to keep up the fight, and we have to be steadfast. And we can't be looking for the result immediately. We don't know when God will bring it in God's time. We put God in front and we go behind, but we have.
Ravi, any closing remarks for us?
Sure. Well, I just want to thank you all for having me. I want to thank all the viewers for your support. Senator Nakhid, as usual, he's always been extremely kind to me and all the kindness, as I said. Thank you as well for your support, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ravi. Safras?
Yeah, guys. So I thought it was a very informative program. Although Ravi didn't give us his win ratio against the government in terms of FYIs and the reaction protocol letters, but
It's too much to count.
Next time. That'll be our next episode.
It's too much to count.
Yes.
Exactly.
100%. The man said 100%. I heard that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. That's it.
And you see, I have so much respect for Ravi and Senator Nakhid. I remember Senator Nakhid and we bumped up last year in front Southern Maryland in Cuba, where Senator Nakhid championed the little issue of the government through HEC trying to build these high-rise buildings on fertile lands in Cuba. And Senator Nakhid is at the forefront, and I think yourself and Attorney Kyle Takla Singh, you all won a matter in court where the judge said it merits, there's enough merit in the case for it to go to judicial review, right, Senator? So I have so much respect for Senator Nakhid. The reason why I'm bringing up that is in context of that for the people outside there who are watching. Ravi is a hero. Ravi Balgobin is a hero. Senator Nakhid is a hero. Senator Anna Roberts is a hero. Senator Damian Lida, Senator Jayanti, political leader Kamala Prasad, all of them are heroes. But we cannot do anything without the power of the people behind us. And it is time. There was a sentiment earlier in the program how we could get people on board. People have to realize that we're not doing this for ourselves. This program is not for ourselves, This program is for the generations to come after us, our kids and our grandkids, that we want to make Trinidad to become a better place. And the more educated we are of current events, the more powerful we become. And I want people to remember, Senator Nakhid, you remember this example in the Middle East where the authorities there, they had banned street vending. And this handicapped guy was selling his produce. And the police just came and took away all his vegetables and burned down his stall. And what the handicapped guy did, he was so hurt and dejected that he actually burned himself, committed suicide. But what that did, that inspired the whole nation to rally behind. The powers that be that no dictator, they were fed up of dictatorship. And that didn't stay in that country alone. It actually dominoed effect into the other neighboring Middle Eastern countries too. So when you stand up for just a right cause, people, we stand up for something that is for our children. Get on board. We cannot allow Nelson to just go under the radar and it just disappear. That is wrong. The evidence is outside there. Police, we are asking the police to do your job. Do your job, People will rally once the people realize that these issues are detrimental to our proper performance democracy. So my little 2 cents tonight. Thank you very much, David, Senator David. Thank you very much, community activist Ravi. And let us, the people outside there, get on board now. If we don't do it now, there will not be another opportunity. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Safra. So all I have to say before I pass you on to Chris to close off is I want to sincerely thank both of our panelists, Ravi as well as Senator David Nakhid, for joining us tonight. I mean, we have the utmost respect for the work that you're doing. And as the gentleman said on the chat, please don't give up. Keep fighting for us, and we're behind you. Not 100%, 1,000%. Right. I want to thank the audience for joining us. As I said before, the regulars who are with us every night. I know some people will see it after the fact, but thanks so much. It really gives us a lot of encouragement to keep going when we see that we have this regular following. Right. So we will see you next week, but Chris is going to close off for us now. You're on mute. You're on mute. On mute.
Thank you. So I think this was the 29th episode, and very, very, I think the compass, I just want to say this, that we have been, self-praise is no praise, but let me beg us up. But I think we have been going very strong and consistent so far. I want to also wish our assistant treasurer a happy birthday. It was her birthday earlier this week. I'm not going to say her name, but I want to wish her happy birthday. I want to thank the panelists for joining us this week. Again, a very interesting conversation. I would love, and I know Lisha and Safra share this view as well, and we are looking forward to having you back. An interesting conversation about democracy and activism. I remembered there's this novelist, Alice Walker, and she said that activism is her rent for living on the planet. Yeah? Yeah? And I want to encourage each and everyone listening on at whatever time this may be. Maybe it's live or maybe you're replaying this video right now. But your voice matters. And what you have to say, that matters too, because each one of us make up where we live, right? So it matters. We are the employer. You know, for far too long in Trinidad and Tobago, citizens have become afraid. They have become not afraid of crime, but become afraid of the witch hunts that we have been seeing. And if you could just say political rifle, who's the rest of us, right? The little nobodies, the small man, sometimes. I'm the best way to describe it. But our voice matters, and your style of activism is appreciated as well. Because I know in my generation, there's an issue about style and how you choose to protest. That is a conversation we have. And so we are gifted social media. We are gifted social media. So you have a platform, whereas before, back in the day, persons didn't have that. You have an open platform. So use it responsibly. You know, have some responsibility when you use it. Unlike some persons who want to talk about cricket and who does drink and who don't drink and all of that, right? Right? Let us be responsible, right? We are supposed to be the future, right? So with those few words, good evening, everyone, and we look forward to you joining us next week for the 30th episode. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.